Michael Jordan was driving through his old neighborhood in Wilmington when he impulsively decided to stop by Laney High School. He'd been meaning to visit for years, but never found the time. When he walked into his former English classroom, he expected to find it empty. It was summer break after all. Instead, he found Mrs. Patricia Williams, his 11th grade teacher, sitting alone at her desk, grading papers with the same red pen she'd used to correct his essays 30 years ago. But what she told him about why she was there during vacation would change both their lives forever. This isn't just a story about a teacher and her former student. It's about the power of words, the cruelty of circumstance, and how sometimes the people who teach us to find our voice end up losing their own. It was a humid July afternoon in 2019, and Michael Jordan was in Wilmington visiting his mother. He'd finished lunch and was driving aimlessly through his old neighborhood when he found himself turning into the Laney High School parking lot. "Why not?" he muttered to himself, pulling into a visitor spot. The school looked different, newer buildings, updated signs, but the main hall still smelled like floor wax and teenage dreams. Michael walked slowly down the corridor, past trophy cases that now featured his jersey prominently displayed behind glass. He stopped outside room 237, Mrs. Williams' English classroom. The nameplate was still there, though it looked newer. P. Williams, English department. Through the small window in the door, Michael could see someone sitting at the teacher's desk. Summer school? He checked his phone. No, school had been out for 3 weeks. He knocked gently and pushed open the door. "Mrs. Williams?" The woman at the desk looked up, and Michael's breath caught. It was definitely her, older, with silver hair where there used to be brown, and wearing reading glasses, but the same kind eyes that had encouraged him through Shakespeare and college prep essays. "Michael Jordan," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Well, I'll be damned." She started to stand, but Michael was already crossing the room. "Please, don't get up. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just driving by." Mrs. Williams smiled, the same warm expression he remembered from 3 decades ago. "Driving by and decided to visit your old English teacher. That's either very sweet or you're in serious trouble." Michael laughed. "Definitely the sweet option. Though you did give me a C+ on that essay about Julius Caesar. I'm still not over it." "You earned that C+. Your analysis was solid, but your grammar was atrocious." They both laughed, and for a moment Michael was 17 again, sitting in the front row because Mrs. Williams insisted her athletes sit where she could keep an eye on them. "What brings you here during summer break?" Michael asked, settling into one of the student desks. It was smaller than he remembered. Mrs. Williams gestured to the stack of papers in front of her. "Summer reading assignments. Some of my kids are behind, so I'm grading their makeup work." "During your vacation?" "Michael, when you've been teaching for 42 years, you learn that learning doesn't stop just because the calendar says it should." Michael looked around the classroom. The posters were different, but the layout was the same. Rows of desks facing the board, bookshelves lined with worn paperbacks, a corner reading area with beanbag chairs. "Mrs. Williams, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you remember what you used to tell us about finding our voice?" Mrs. Williams leaned back in her chair, a thoughtful expression crossing her face. "I told you that everyone has something important to say. The trick is learning how to say it so people will listen. You changed my life with that advice. Michael, you changed your own life. I just helped you organize your thoughts." "No, it was more than that. You made me believe that what I had to say mattered, even when I was just some skinny kid who was better at basketball than book reports." Mrs. Williams' eyes glistened slightly. "You were never just anything, Michael. You had something special even then." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Michael noticed something. "Mrs. Williams, your voice sounds different. Are you okay?" Her hand instinctively went to her throat. "It's nothing serious, just getting older." But something in her expression told Michael there was more to it. "Mrs. Williams, Patricia. You're 50 years old, Michael. You can call me Patricia." "Patricia, What's really going on?" She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers drumming on the desk. Finally, she sighed. "I have throat cancer, Michael. Stage 3. The words hit him like a physical blow. "What?" "It's been about 6 months now. The treatments, well, they're not going so well." Michael felt the room spinning slightly. "What do the doctors say?" "They say there's an experimental treatment available. Something new, very promising. But," she trailed off. "But what?" "But it's not covered by the teacher's insurance. And it costs more than I make in 2 years. Michael stared at her, processing what she'd just told him. The woman who had taught him the power of words was losing her voice, and there was a treatment that could save it, but she couldn't afford it.
"How much?" he asked quietly.
"Michael, I'm not telling you this because I want how much. $250,000. To Michael Jordan, that was pocket change. To a teacher living on a pension, it might as well have been $250 million. Patricia, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you reach out?" She smiled sadly. "Michael, you have a life. You have responsibilities. I'm just your old English teacher." "Just my old English teacher?" Michael's voice got louder. "Patricia, you taught me how to communicate. Every interview I've ever given, every speech I've made, every time I've had to find the right words, that all started in this classroom." He stood up and began pacing. "You know what you told me when I was struggling with that college application essay?" Patricia shook her head. "You said, 'Michael, your words are your power. Basketball will make you famous, but how you communicate will determine your legacy.' Do you remember that?" "Vaguely. I remember it exactly, because it changed how I thought about everything. It's why I was able to handle the media pressure. It's why I could inspire my teammates. It's why I can run businesses now." Michael stopped pacing and looked directly at her. "Patricia, you didn't just teach me English. You taught me how to be heard. And now you're telling me you're losing your voice and there's something that can save it, but you can't afford it?" "Michael, it's not that simple." "Yes, it is. It's exactly that simple." He pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" "I'm calling my assistant. We're getting you that treatment today." "Michael, no, I can't accept." "Patricia?" He put his phone down and knelt beside her desk, the same way he used to when she was helping him with difficult passages. "Do you remember what you taught us about accepting help?" She looked confused. "You used to say that pride was a luxury that poor people couldn't afford. You said that sometimes accepting help was just another form of courage." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "I was talking about you accepting help with your schoolwork. And now I'm talking about you accepting help with your life. What's the difference?" She was quiet for a long moment. "The difference is that this is too much. This is life-changing money. Patricia, you changed my life every single day for 2 years. This isn't too much. This isn't even close to enough." He picked up his phone again. "Michael, wait." He paused. If you're really going to do this, I want to ask you for something else." "Anything." "I want to keep teaching, even through the treatments. The kids need consistency, and honestly, teaching is what keeps me going." Michael smiled for the first time since she'd told him about the cancer. "Patricia, you're going to keep teaching for as long as you want to teach. In fact, I have some ideas about that too." 2 weeks later, Patricia Williams was sitting in the office of Dr. Sarah Chen, one of the country's leading throat cancer specialists at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. "Mrs. Williams, I've reviewed your case thoroughly," Dr. Chen said. "The experimental treatment is definitely your best option, but I want to be honest with you about what we're looking at." Patricia nodded, ready for whatever came next. "The treatment involves targeted radiation combined with a new immunotherapy drug. It's showing remarkable results, but it's intensive. You'll need to be in Chicago for 6 weeks, coming in daily for treatments." "What about side effects?" "You'll be tired, very tired. Your throat will be sore, and your voice might get worse before it gets better. But if it works," Dr. Chen smiled, "you should regain full vocal function." That evening, Patricia was staying in a furnished apartment that Michael had arranged for her, just 10 minutes from the hospital. Her phone rang. "Patricia, it's Michael. How was your first consultation?" "Overwhelming, but hopeful. Dr. Chen seems confident." "Good. I have some news for you." "What kind of news?" "I've been thinking about what you said, about wanting to keep teaching. Michael, I told you, I can handle the treatments and, no, listen, I've been talking to some people. What if teaching didn't have to be something you worried about anymore? What do you mean? I mean, what if you could teach without worrying about insurance, or pension funds, or whether the school district is going to cut your program? Patricia was quiet. Michael, what are you saying? I'm saying I want to start a foundation. The Patricia Williams Foundation for Educational Excellence. It would support teachers who go above and beyond, teachers like you. Michael, I'm not done. This foundation would provide grants for teachers to pursue advanced training, funds for classroom supplies, and most importantly, supplemental health insurance for educators dealing with serious medical issues. Patricia felt tears forming in her eyes. You want to name it after me? Patricia, you've probably influenced thousands of students over 42 years. How many of them went on to do great things because you taught them how to communicate, how to think, how to find their voice? I don't know. I do, because I'm one of them, and I guarantee you, I'm not the only one. That night, Patricia called her daughter in California. Mom, you sound different, Sarah said immediately. I sound hopeful, baby. For the first time in months, I sound hopeful. 3 weeks into Patricia's treatment, Michael flew to Chicago to check on her progress. He found her in the hospital's family lounge, reading to a group of children whose parents were receiving treatment. She was reading Where the Red Fern Grows, and despite her raspy voice from the radiation, the kids were completely captivated. When she finished the chapter, the children scattered to find their families, and Michael approached. How are you feeling? Like I've been hit by a truck, Patricia said honestly, but better every day. Dr. Chen says the scans are looking good. That's wonderful, and I see you haven't stopped teaching. Patricia smiled. These kids are going through something scary. Stories help. You know, Patricia, watching you just now reminded me of something. What's that? Senior year, when I was struggling with my college application essays, you stayed after school every day for 2 weeks, helping me find the right words to tell my story. I remember, you were so frustrated. I was terrified. I knew I could play basketball, but I didn't know if I could convince a college admissions officer that I was smart enough to deserve a scholarship. But you did convince them. Because you taught me that intelligence isn't about using big words. It's about using the right words. Patricia nodded. Patricia, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about all the students you've helped over the years, all the kids who learned to believe in themselves because you believed in them first. Michael, that's just what teachers do. No, it's what great teachers do. There's a difference. Michael pulled out a folder from his briefcase. I want to show you something. Inside the folder were dozens of letters. What are these? Letters from your former students. I put out some feelers, found contact information for kids you taught over the years, and asked them to write about how you influenced their lives. Patricia opened the first letter. It was from a student she'd had 15 years earlier, now a successful lawyer.
Mrs. Williams, you probably don't remember me, but I was in your third period English class in 2004. I was a shy kid who never spoke up in class until you created that poetry unit where everyone had to read their work aloud. You told me my poem about my grandmother was beautiful, and it was the first time anyone had ever told me my words mattered. I'm a civil rights attorney now, and I fight for people who don't have a voice. That started in your classroom. Patricia's hands were shaking as she read. There are 47 letters in there, Michael said quietly. Teachers, doctors, business owners, artists, parents, all of them saying the same thing, that you changed their lives. Patricia wiped tears from her eyes. Michael, I had no idea. That's what makes you special, Patricia. You changed all these lives and never even knew it. He pulled out one more document. This is a petition signed by 200 of your former students. They're requesting that Laney High School rename the English department in your honor. Patricia stared at the petition, overwhelmed. There's more. The Charlotte Observer wants to do a feature story about you. The North Carolina Education Association wants to give you their Lifetime Achievement Award, and the University of North Carolina wants to offer you an honorary doctorate. Michael, this is too much. Patricia, this is just the beginning. 6 weeks later, Patricia Williams walked back into room 237 at Laney High School. Her voice was stronger, her energy was returning, and the latest scans showed no trace of cancer. The classroom was exactly as she'd left it, except for one thing. There was a large package on her desk with a note from Michael. "Patricia, thank you for teaching me that words have power. I hope these help you keep changing lives for years to come." Michael. Inside the package was a state-of-the-art computer system, a high-quality document camera for sharing student work, and a library of new books for her classroom. But at the bottom of the box was something else, a small red pin with an engraved message. "For the teacher who taught me to find my voice." Patricia was still holding the pin when her phone rang. "Patricia, it's Michael. Did you get my package?" "Michael, this is too generous." "Actually, that's just the warm-up gift. The real surprise is happening tomorrow." "What do you mean?" "Be at school at 9 a.m. And Patricia, wear something nice." The next morning, Patricia arrived at Laney High to find the parking lot full of cars and a small crowd gathered near the main entrance. As she got closer, she saw a banner hanging over the door. "Patricia Williams English Excellence Center, grand opening." Patricia stared at the banner, confused. "Surprise!" She turned to see Michael walking toward her, followed by a crowd of people she didn't recognize at first. Then she started recognizing faces. Former students, now adults with families of their own. Colleagues from her years of teaching, her daughter Sarah, who had flown in from California. "Michael, what is this?" "This, Patricia, is the grand opening of your new domain." He led her inside to the English department, which had been completely renovated. New desks, new technology, new bookshelves filled with fresh books. The Patricia Williams English Excellence Center will serve as a model for English education programs across the country, Michael announced to the crowd. It will also house the teacher training program for the Patricia Williams Foundation. Patricia was crying again, but this time from pure joy. "You're going to train other teachers?" "We're going to train other teachers. You're going to be the director of the program. That is, if you want the job." "But I'm already teaching here." "You'll still teach your regular classes, but 3 afternoons a week, you'll work with new teachers, showing them how to do what you do, how to find each student's potential, how to make kids believe in themselves." Michael gestured to a group of young people standing nearby. "These are the first 10 teachers who've been accepted into the program. They'll be working with you this year." One of the young teachers stepped forward. "Mrs. Williams, I'm Jennifer Martinez. I'm starting my first year teaching, and I chose to work here specifically because of you. My older brother was in your class 12 years ago. He's a journalist now, and he always said you were the reason he learned to love writing." Patricia looked around at all the faces, former students, new teachers, colleagues, family. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll keep doing what you've been doing for 42 years, Michael said. "Say you'll keep changing lives." 6 months later, Dr. Chen gave Patricia the news she'd been hoping for. "Your voice is completely normal," she said, reviewing the latest tests. "No trace of cancer, full vocal function restored. You're officially cured." That afternoon, Patricia stood in front of her newly expanded English classes. Now she taught both regular students and the teacher training program participants. "Today we're going to talk about the power of voice," she said, her words clear and strong. "Not just the physical voice, but the voice that comes from having something important to say." She looked around the room at the eager faces. Teenagers discovering literature for the first time. Young teachers learning how to inspire the next generation. Everyone in this room has a voice. Your job is to find it, develop it, and use it to make the world a little bit better. After class, one of the new teachers approached her. "Mrs. Williams, how do you help students who are afraid to speak up, who don't think they have anything important to say?" Patricia smiled, remembering a skinny basketball player who used to sit in the front row, convinced he wasn't smart enough for college. "You show them that everyone has a story worth telling. You help them find the words to tell it, and you never, ever let them give up on themselves." That evening, Patricia was grading papers in her classroom when Michael stopped by for one of his regular visits. "How are you feeling?" "Strong, grateful, ready to teach for another 20 years. "Good, because I have news about the foundation." "What kind of news?" "We've received applications from 12 other school districts that want to start Patricia Williams Excellence Centers. We're going to need more training programs." Patricia laughed. "Michael, you realize you're creating a lot of work for me. Patricia, you realize you're creating a legacy that will outlast both of us." They sat in comfortable silence, surrounded by stacks of papers covered in red ink. The same red ink that had corrected Michael's essays 30 years earlier. "Michael, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't stopped by that day? If you hadn't impulsively decided to visit your old school?" Michael considered the question. "I think you would have found another way. Great teachers always do. But I'm glad I was here to help." "You did more than help. You saved my life. Patricia, you saved mine first. You just did it 30 years earlier." Today, there are Patricia Williams English Excellence Centers in 15 states. Over 300 teachers have been trained in her methods, and thousands of students have benefited from her approach to education. Patricia Williams, now 68, continues to teach full-time while directing the Foundation's teacher training programs. Her voice is strong, her passion is undiminished, and her red pen is still helping students find their own voices. The experimental cancer treatment she received has now been approved by the FDA and is helping patients across the country. Most importantly, the Foundation has provided emergency medical assistance to over 200 teachers facing health crises, ensuring that financial worry doesn't prevent educators from getting the care they need. Michael Jordan visits Patricia's classroom regularly, not as a celebrity, but as a former student who understands that some lessons last a lifetime. In room 237 at Laney High School, there's now a plaque next to the door that reads, "The Patricia Williams English Excellence Center, where every voice matters." And on Patricia's desk, next to her gradebook and lesson plans, sits a small red pen with an engraved message, "For the teacher who taught me to find my voice." Because sometimes the most important lessons aren't about basketball or business or fame. They're about finding the words to express what's in your heart and having the courage to use your voice to make a difference. That's what great teachers do. They help us find our voices. And sometimes, when they're in danger of losing their own, it's our turn to help them find it again. If this story moved you, remember to thank the teachers who helped you find your voice, the educators who stayed late to help you with assignments, who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself, who taught you that your words and ideas matter. Like this video if it reminded you of a teacher who changed your life, and subscribe for more stories about ordinary heroes doing extraordinary things. Sometimes the most important people in our lives are the ones standing in front of a classroom, helping us discover who we're meant to become.